Hey, what's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to talk about building a standard of high performance. And the reason I'm making this video is honestly because at the places I work, I wish every single person had this presentation. And it's also the exact presentation that I needed when I was 16, that if I knew the things I know now, it really could have changed my life. Things I learned transformed myself from this guy who's fat, sad, and depressed, and really just letting life happen to me. Where I was letting life beat the strength out of me rather than beat the strength into me. You can see here, my dad had passed away 3 years before this picture. So he passed away in 2017 from head and neck cancer. And for 2 years, I watched my dad deteriorate, and it really just broke apart inside of me. Uh, I realized just how, not necessarily how short life is, because we do have every single day within life, but I just came face to face with the fact that one day we're going to die, and the question we need to ask ourselves isn't so much what we're going to do, but who we're going to become, because that's what really matters in the end, and what impact you can make on other people. I transferred high schools and I transferred just to play baseball. But because my foundation was so just cracked after my dad passed away, I played terrible. Like, no confidence, no self esteem, going up to the plate, just thinking I was going to strike out, hoping the pitcher was going to walk me because I didn't want to swing the bat and embarrass myself. Like, really screwed up. And that led to me getting bullied by the kids at my new high school. I just felt so alone. So I started making jokes like, "Oh, I'm eating big to get big. I'm bulking." I found a lot of strength and solace in the gym. Where it's like, "Oh, I'm allowed to be aggressive and use all these negative emotions to make myself better." Um, but as a side effect, I ate a ton and I got really fat. I wasn't necessarily happy about that. And then COVID was my senior year of high school. So yeah, me and this picture had a lot of tough things happen to him. But if you look at me now, this is me in 2023. It's me a few weeks ago. Um, I've really learned how to turn all that struggle, all of those negative feelings of fear, pain, doubt, insecurity, sadness, anger, all of that into strength. Right? You got to understand that every weakness that you think you have has a strength hidden within it. If you're really fat, every time you sit down on the couch to stand up, that's a way to squat. If you get angry pretty quick, you're gonna be killer in the gym. Like, you're always gonna have energy for that. You just got to find the hidden strength within the weakness, and it'll change your life. I also learned how to turn distraction into discipline and my potential into personal performance. The last one is really what this presentation is all about. It's turning potential into performance, because potential without action is honestly pretty useless. Like, if we want to do cool stuff, that means we got to do stuff. Like, everybody has infinite potential. Like, we're all children of God. We can all do amazing things, but unless we start turning our desires into actions that get results, we aren't really going to get anywhere. And on the right, I have a few little things I do now. So ultra marathons, get up at 4. Yeah, it's like there's nothing magical about getting up at 4 a.m., but there is magic in having things that you need to get up at 4 a.m. for. And that's what I think makes it worth it. So I think it's really fun. Getting up early also feels like you're the beast. It's like, oh, you could do great on 6 hours of sleep, great on 7 hours of sleep. It isn't so much dependent on what everybody else is doing. You do your own thing. And last thing I want to talk about on this slide is there's a difference between being driven and being dragged. People who are driven, they have ambition, they have goals, they have focus, and they're pursuing something big, which is epic. The people who are being dragged, they look like they're the same as people who are driven, but they're really being dragged by their insecurity. And I felt that way for a long time, where it's like, oh, I'm going to be great, I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to show up at the high school reunion and crush all my bullies. They're like, look how pathetic your life is, right? And a part of me still feels like, yeah, but also it's just a lot more fun to be driven towards goals and making the impact. Being the guy that I needed when I was down and out is much more motivating and fueling than, oh, I'm just going to get rich to crush the kids in high school. So you got to understand, are you being driven? Or are you being dragged? Honestly, I'll work with you either way, but it's a lot more fun being driven than being dragged. There's a few key mindsets I want to talk about before we get deep into the nitty gritty of how do you build a mindset of high performance, and this will help you out a lot. But the first, I mentioned it a little bit, but life is about being and becoming, not doing and having. Right? So we're here to become strong. We're here to become confident. We're here to become our best. And the way that we show that we're on track of becoming the type of person we want to become is by doing things and having things. We'll cover this a second, where we have ends goals and means goals. But you need to make sure that the goals you're hitting, the things that you do, and the things that you have are leading you on the track of the person that you want to become. Because if they're not, like, what are you doing? You're wasting your life. Like, same thing. This is the key understanding I got when my dad passed away, is we're here to be and become something and make an impact, not just to be rich and have a nice house. And this one kind of goes along with it, but getting what you want is a side effect of becoming the type of person it takes to get it. For example, if you want to be rich, like stupid rich, not just like a little bit rich, but like rich, rich, you need to become the type of guy who has the capabilities to do that. Right? You need to become the person who knows the people who can get you there. Right? It's not just oh, I'm rich. It's like, no, you need to become the guy in the process. That's what makes it worth it. So whether it's benching 275, it's not, oh, I need to bench 275. It's I need to become the type of guy who benches 275. What things does he do? What things does he not do? What things does he have? What things does he not have? What thoughts does he think? What thoughts does he not think? That's just like the starting point of how you become somebody. It's like thoughts, feelings, actions, positions. So yeah, we'll get deeper into that. Honestly, this video is like a base level of everything I'm going to teach. Eventually, I'm going to take this presentation and compile it into a book because it's a book I wish existed when I was really screwed up. So I think it could help you out whatever stage of life you're in. Going along with this, what traits do you or your team need to develop in order to get what you want? And the way we develop those traits, how do we become the type of person? How do we start acting like it, right? We can start to think like it, and eventually lead us taking the actions, or you just take the actions, which will lead you to start thinking like it. So I say do both, right? Give yourself a reason to believe that you're confident and start acting like a confident person, and you make the transformation twice as fast versus just thinking or just acting. But straight up, if you're going to try to become somebody you're proud of, to improve yourself, to take yourself to the next level, you got to be genuine with it. If you're doing things because you feel like you should, or because it's good, or because you have to, you're just going to give up, like straight up. So you got to want it for you, not for your mom, not for your girlfriend, not for the future kids, not to make more money, not for the bullies in school, for you. This stuff's going to push you. I'm going to teach you how to leverage some pretty intense sides of you to push yourself to levels you've never been. So you got to want it. And this isn't me like motivational speaker, like you got to want it bad. No, it's not like that, but like, who do you want to become? And that should be motivating enough for you that you're willing to stay up late, working on the goal, willing to get up early, willing to push hard. It's got to be worth it for you. Another key mindset. Nobody's coming to save you, so you got to become your own hero. Now, if you scroll on my Instagram, honestly, I gave all these secrets away on Instagram too, so if you don't follow me there, follow me. I believe that somebody is coming to save you, but it is this hero, which is the future you, right? So what are the superpowers that your hero would have to save you? And what fuels them? For me, my hero was fueled by fear, darkness, pain, and doubt and insecurity. Because when I was 18, that's like what I was full of, right? I was dragged. I talked the talk and I walked the walk, but I wasn't the guy, right? But once you become the guy, everything else is a side effect, and you're a lot happier. And success comes way quicker. So become your own hero. What are they fueled by? What actions do they take? What events, places, or feelings trigger your superhero to show up in action, right? You got to bring out different parts of you in different places. We'll talk about the alter ego in a bit. But you got to have the alter ego that's just a beast in the gym, right? If you want to bench press huge, heavy weight, you got to have a guy that's fueled by the gym, right? It's not enough to be like, oh, I'm kind and loving right now. It's like, dude, you're in the gym. Like, you're here to destroy, you're here to kill, you're here to crush. So important stuff. We'll get deeper into it. Honestly, this video will not do justice of any of these concepts, but it's enough to get you started, enough to get you interested. And yeah, my end goal is to work with you one-on-one or come speak to the people you work with to fire you all up. So it's just a base level. You gotta ask yourself, who is your hero? What makes him heroic to you? All right, maybe it's your parents, grandparents, coworker. Who is your hero? Also, who is like your anti-role model? Like, who do you not want to be? And every action that you see that you don't want to be, that you also take, just stop doing it. Like, I get that's like a pretty big time like shrink down of what you need to do. But if it's not helping you and it's hurting you, why are you doing it? I get it could feel good, but just act rational for a bit and only do things that make you better. Now, there's four main pillars to high performance, and I'll cover them quick here, and then we'll go in depth to each of them. This part should take about 20-ish minutes. So buckle up, take some notes. I think it can really help you out. First, set goals so big that even on your best day, you can't hit them. Second, make plans so easy to follow, you can stick with them even on your worst day. Third, visualize success so tangibly until you're already living it. And fourth, talk to yourself like your own best coach, the one you always needed but never had. So this is the base level. We're going to go deep into it now. So we're starting off with goals. Set them so big that no matter what, you can't hit them. Now, I'm going to give you a pretty visceral example. It's going to break down the whole I need faith and passion to like work at my best. It's like we want to set the goal so big that under the worst circumstance, you still couldn't hit it. So here's the example. Let's say somebody had kidnapped your friends and your family, all of them. Say, hey, if you don't run a marathon in under 5 hours, they're gone. Right? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to push harder or less hard the fact that they got kidnapped? Like you might want to finish the marathon in under 5 hours anyway. But the fact there's something on the line, you're going to push even harder. So we need you to set goals so big, like the mega massive ones. We're going to set small ones, don't worry. But the huge ones where it's like, no matter what you do, you couldn't hit it. And a running example, you might already be able to run a marathon. Right? If you can run a 6 mile, if you can do a 10K, you can probably do a marathon if you're willing to suffer. A 50 miler, probably not. 100 miler, you might die. So we need to set goals so big that, yeah, you got to learn to tap into the dark side, right? Like, what does the emptying the tank feel like? There's a clip that I love. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but it's from, I think it's called Walking with the Giants, where the coach has a football player with the kid on his back and he has him doing the death crawl across the field and says, like, give me your best. Is it like that's not your best? Like, keep going, right? And kid wants to stop into the 30 for the first time. You can get all the way to the end zone. I think a really powerful mindset is to think that you're always at the 30, right? You always have more to give. You got to find what the limit is. So, what does emptying the tank feels like? And once you do that, you learn how to embrace the intense side of performance, right? When the kid's crawling with the kid in his back, he's not thinking like, oh, I feel happy, I feel driven, I feel powerful. He's like, dude, my legs hurt. I'm screaming at like my body's screaming with pain. Like I just want to keep going. That's the intense side of performance you'll find, right? The Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordan, the David Goggins, that intensity. It's because their goals are huge and they've created an alter ego that's fueled off of pain, doubt, and insecurity. So you have to push themselves to another level. And work with me one-on-one. We can create that alter ego for you. We can get you to those crazy levels of performance. If you're doing it on your own, it'll be pretty tough to learn. But if you're talking to somebody who's done it before, we can supercharge your way to success. It's pretty fun. We talked about a little bit, ends goals versus means goals. I'll give you like a marriage example because I feel like this is the easiest one to understand. Guys my age, right? They're like, oh, I want to have a girlfriend. It's like, cool. For what? It's like, oh, so then I can get married. Cool. For what? Oh, so can I have kids? Okay, cool. For what? Sorry, the lights just turned off in this room. Hopefully you can still see me good. Okay, lights are now back on. Sorry about that. All right, but the guy's saying, oh, okay, I want to have kids. For what? It's like, because I feel like I should. It's like, well, maybe that's not a great end goal because you could get married to somebody that you aren't in love with, and you could date somebody that doesn't make your life any better, but you feel like you should. But maybe your end goal is that you want to be madly in love with somebody and have them be madly in love with you. And then getting a girlfriend and getting married and having kids is a side effect of the fact that you're madly in love with somebody. Similar deal. We could take this in an example of the gym, right? It's like, okay, I want to bench 275. It's like, well, for what? It's like, it's how people will like me. It's like, okay, for what? Because I feel like I need their approval. It's like, well, yeah, like you could bench 275 and it's like in and of itself, it's cool. But if the end goal is I want to be undeniably strong, right? Benching 275 becomes a side effect of pursuing the end goal. If you're only focusing on hitting means goals because you feel like you should or other people's approval, you might end up living a life that you didn't want to end up living. But nobody can answer this question of who are they trying to become. This might be the biggest, most impactful question in the whole thing. If you know you're trying to become and you take the actions to become that person, living the life that you want to become is a side effect of the things you would do to become this person. Right? Maybe this is like too deep for a YouTube video, but this is like a game changer. If you're down and out right now, you need to get clear on this. Who are you trying to become? Okay. And the victim mentality comes because you aren't taking responsibility for where you are. When you don't take responsibility, you don't have power. So if you want to take the power back, you need to get responsible for where you are and who you want to become. And that's your first step. So when we have these end goals, we're setting means goals to prove to ourselves that we're on the right track. Back to strength. We see if we're making continuous progress in the gym to see if we're on track of becoming strong. And if we don't set an end goal of strength, how do we know that our goals are even worth hitting, right? If your only goal is to get rich, it's like, well, for what? You might get rich and you might live a life that you hate. So you got to set the end goal. What's the point? And on a personal level, we set at least 4 90-day goals. So meeting with me, we get pretty crystal clear on your end goals in these areas of physical, mental, money, social, and one goal that you pick. But then we set 90-day goals. That's like the furthest out that your brain can really strategize and create tactics of how you're going to hit the goal. Like it's fun to set yearly goals, and I think it's worth it to like dream massive. So when we set your goals, you're so big you can't hit them no matter what. Like, yeah, those are year-long goals or 6-month-long goals, or ridiculously crazy for 90 days. But we also need to get very concise, like very small, that you can hit them every single day. That kind of goes more into planning, but you're setting at least 4 goals minimum, and then one that you pick. So for me, I set a spiritual goal because that's important to me. For you, it might be like a relationship goal. And why do we set goals in these areas? Like, well, when we sharpen the mind, we chisel the body. When we chisel the body, we sharpen the mind. So it goes back and forth. The better mental health you get and the more mental tactics you learn, the easier it's going to be to get your body in shape and do cool stuff. Once you get your body in shape and train and do epic stuff, your mind gets stronger as a side effect. So it goes both ways. Once you do this, you're going to be a lot more confident. So being social is going to be a lot easier. When it's social life and you look good, you feel good, it's going to be easier for you to make money. I know that maybe that's not like the most politically correct thing, but straight up it is. And if you become this guy and you don't share them with the world, like we got to be social, man. Like we got to teach people what we're learning. And this is kind of unrelated from this last point, but 10x goals are a lot easier than 2 times goals. There's a book that just came out about this. I just read it and I thought it was awesome and I had to put it in the presentation. When you're setting your massive goals, try to set them 10 times bigger, right? So rather than saying, okay, I want to make $10,000 a month, it's like, well, what things would you have to do to make $100,000 a month? That's going to limit a lot of your options and you're only going to be left with the ones that can supercharge your success the fastest. So again, set your goals so massive, no matter what, you can't hit them. Next, we have end of week versus end of day, right? If you have a goal, you need to get the speed that you can hit it quick, right? If somebody's kind of operating thing is they get a new assignment at work, like, oh, we'll get it done by the end of the week, versus the company who's, when they get new assignments, says, oh, we'll get it done by the end of today, is a 700% speed difference. Like, who do you think's going to win? Like, speed is king. Speed will win. So be quick. When you're pursuing goals, you can hit them fast if you make plans that work. Another thing, the more ways you measure, the more ways you can win, but make sure that if you hit the measurement, you hit the goal. So for strength, you might have a 20 rep max, 15 rep max, 12 rep max, 10 rep max. So every time you walk into the gym, you know there's a way that you can win. So your confidence is going to stay high. Nothing is worse than when you show up to the gym and you're getting weaker by the week. Hate that. But we need to make sure if your goal is strength, but we're measuring based off your body fat percentage, that doesn't really equate to like what we're going for. Like, yes, it's great to look good, but if you want to build strength, make sure the measurement you're using is going to have you build strength. Next up is plans. Really, we just reverse engineer the goal and make a plan. It's so easy to follow it. You could do it while you're sick with the flu. I sick with the flu. One of my favorite things is the Michael Jordan flu game, where him and his worst was still better than people at their best. All right. This is what we call increasing your floor rather than increasing your ceiling. Like when you feel terrible, when you feel awful, when you're sore, when you're sad, when you're insecure, when you just kind of like a degenerate waste of a human, can you still perform? Can you still show up? Because if you could do that when you feel at your worst, I'd hate to compete against you at your best. When we're increasing your floor, we just try to make a 2 to 10% increase. So this can be by day, by week, by month, however your metric is. I know on a day-by-day basis, your body really can't tell a difference between an extra 2% on the bar. So for squat, if you're doing 400 pounds, right, like you can add the fives on there, like it'll be fine. No, the 2.5s. Like if you just hit 405, you could probably hit 410, like straight up. Little gym hack for you. Again, increase your floor. And when we're making plans, we need to make committing to our plan the goal, right? Like winners and losers have the same goal. This is like the Atomic Habits quote. Every Olympian wants to win gold, but the Olympian who wins pushes themselves to the point where they start getting diminishing returns because diminishing returns are still returns. So we commit to the plan, we commit to the actions. For me, if you follow me on Instagram, it's like, hey, I post 5 times a week, right? The goal is for me to continue to post 5 times a week. It's not to get tons of views, it's to make content that gets lots of views, but the real goal is to post, right? Everything else is a side effect of that. Next up, we have the trigger action practice. These things will literally change your life if you never set them before. The biggest cheat code, breaking any addiction, breaking any bad habit, and how to start a good one. I'm going to give you a personal example for me of how I use a trigger action plan to get up at 4 a.m. So a habit is broken down into 3 things. You have a trigger, you have a gap, and you have an action. A habit is when that gap gets shrunk down where you kind of lose your ability to choose and the action just happens. People say, oh, it takes 30 days to make a habit or 90 days or a year or whatever the science is saying. But you could just start them instantly if you practice enough, right? If a habit takes 21 perfect reps for it to become a habit, let's just practice it 21 times. So for me, my trigger to wake up in the morning is my alarm. And I wanted to practice getting up at 4 a.m. So I'd set my alarm for 30 seconds in the future. I'd turn off the lights in my room. I'd lay in bed and I'd imagine that I'm tired and that I'm cold. Well, like outside is cold and I want to stay in my covers. And then when my alarm would go off in 30 seconds, I'd be like, okay, let's pretend it's 4 a.m. When this sound goes off, the trigger, the action is I get up no matter what. I get up out of bed, turn off the alarm, put my shoes on, use the bathroom, mix the pre-workout, get out the door. Right? You practice it. Right? I'm not drinking my whole pre-workout at 8 p.m. at night because then I wouldn't be able to go to bed for real. But set a timer for 10 minutes and see how many practice reps you can get of getting up at 4 a.m. And if you do that the night before, the chance that you actually do get up at 4 a.m. is ridiculously high. So you could do this for anything. If you're trying to break the habit of when you get home from work, you open up the pantry and eat junk food, you just practice like you're coming home from work. Like when you actually come home from work for the first time, set a timer for 10 minutes and get 10 reps of you not opening the kitchen pantry when you show up at your house. Like it'll change your life. If you want help doing it, this with setting real goals, honestly, I can't believe I'm making this video. Like this is the exact video I needed when I was 17. So hopefully you're getting some value from it. I know I'm talking fast. Watch the video in 0.75 if you have to, but I love this stuff. I hope you can feel the passion. So For a trigger action practice, all you have to do is identify the trigger that you want to set up a certain action, then practice it until it's ingrained in your body. For example, if it takes you 30 reps to be able to start waking up at 4 a.m., let's just do 30 reps over 2 days. All right, I'll teach you the visualization of it, but in a second, I'll teach you the visualization of how you can get your reps in without physically practicing. But another important thing is the specificity of practice. So for me, I run ultramarathons. A big part of ultramarathons is you're going to have to run throughout the night. A lot of guys only get their practice runs in throughout the day when it's feeling good outside and they're like awake. Well, dude, in ultramarathon, you're going to be tired. You're going to be hurt. You're going to be beat down. You got to practice that. If you don't practice it, when you show up for the first time, you're going to get owned by it. Not so much because your body isn't prepared, but your mind isn't ready. The mind hasn't been chiseled by running at midnight or 4 a.m. or 3 a.m., whenever it is. You got to practice specifically. So if you're a baseball player, hitting off a tee is great, but the game comes when you're hitting off of a live pitcher. So you need to hit off a live pitcher more often. That's the practice that you need to get. Because anybody can have perfect reps off the tee, but can you get perfect reps off of a real pitcher? The machine is close, but it's not a real game. So get as specific as you can with your plan. And next up is the focus timer. Again, talking about this, right? You set a timer for 5 minutes, see how many reps you can get done, or 10 minutes, see how many reps you can get done. Or just guess how long a task you think is going to take you, right? I do this for me when I'm setting my daily plans in the morning. I'm like, okay, I think my homework is going to take me 2 hours today. And then you set a timer and see how long it takes. Sometimes it takes you 45 minutes, other times it takes you 3 hours. It's a fun way just to calibrate my expectations of how long I think something is going to take versus how long it actually takes. This wraps up the planning. Now we're moving on to visualization. This stuff will change your life, like straight up. So now that you have your trigger action practice, you can visualize yourself executing it perfectly, and it'll change your life straight up. Because instead of having to lay in bed and hit the alarm for 30 seconds in the future and pretend you got to get up, it's like, dude, you can just visualize it, right? You can mental practice, like, hey, at 4 a.m., the alarm's going to go off. You can practice it when you're in school, when you're at work, when you're standing in line, wherever you are, you can visualize it. An even better thing, if you want to get better at sales, visualize yourself selling perfectly. Create a trigger action plan for exact objection overcomes. When they say this, I say this, right? Do it 10 times with the timer on. Now you can practice in your mind. You're going to get really freaking good. Next up is the Murphy's Law defense. Murphy's Law says whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So you got to practice for it. So we can visualize this, right? This is like the whole sales overcome. I think this is, next slide. If you know that a common objection comes up, how about you just practice saying it in your pitch? So that way they can't bring it up, right? You overcome the objection before it even happened. But if you aren't doing the Murphy's Law Jiu-Jitsu, if you aren't thinking of things that can go wrong, you won't have the skills and tactics, and your mind won't be prepared for when it happens for real. Next up is the visualization, doing the mental reps in the gym. What's really fun about this is that your muscles will still fire when you visualize, right? So if you're imagining, okay, I'm going to bench press 275, unrack the bar, have it low, slower, right down below my pecs, blast up and back, right? If you do 100 mental reps of that with 275, knowing exactly how it's going to feel, if you can hit it one time, you can visualize it hundreds of times. So when you show up in the gym the next day, like you straight up might be able to hit it for 2 sets of one or 3 sets of one. It's a game changer in itself. And this is something that's fun just about visualization, that becoming extraordinary is just doing an extra amount of the ordinary. I think the whole presentation, like really nothing should be like shocking your mind. It just has a bit more nuance to each of the individual things of goal setting, planning, visualization, and self-talk that I call it tested in war. Like if you're really screwed up, like this stuff will pull you out. But it's nothing crazy. Like you just, like the word extraordinary, it's just the basic stuff done more. Now we're kind of going into the final section here, which is self-talk. Self-talk is how we get our subconscious mind to believe that we are who we say that we are. But we need proof for it to believe. So this is why affirmations suck. Because if you're saying I'm strong and it's clear that you aren't strong, you're just lying to yourself. So you got to use the evidence that you have. So you got to build proof that you could use self-talk with. Like David Goggins talks about the cookie jar. Like that's some killer self-talk because you give yourself evidence that you've been strong before and you can be strong now. Or that you've been stronger before, so of course you can be strong now. A self-talk example I like is, I am strong because I've added 5 pounds to the bar every week for the last 10 weeks. I'll say this to myself when I squat, when I deadlift, when I bench, when I shoulder press, whatever the lift is, to psych yourself up, to be like, hey, might have had a crappy lift, but I've been stronger every week, so I'm going to be stronger right now. Right? Gives you a little bit extra to grit it out and push hard. Or if you are feeling just kind of wimpy that day, it's like, hey, I'm strong. I'm all right. I'm going to kill it the next time. So one type of self-talk works, the other one doesn't. You got to use evidence. You got to have proof. And I guess this wraps up like the ultimate basics. There's a whole deeper section of self-talk that is like more one-on-one. when giving like broad advice, this is perfect for the average person, but it's not going to be perfect for you. There's like a fun analogy of these pilots. I think it might have been World War II, but they crafted these cockpits. They're based off the average height of the pilots, but none of the pilots that were flying those planes were the average height. They're all significantly taller or significantly shorter, so they're crashing the planes all the time. So when you're crafting a cockpit for a pilot, it needs to be tailor fit for them, or at least have like an adjustable seat. When I'm talking about self-talk principles or visualization, goal setting, and planning, these things will be great for the average person, but you're not the average person, right? You might not be fueled by pain, doubt, and insecurity like I was. You might have a whole different fuel source. So you got to make plans specific to you. So they're just the basics, but something else you got to understand is that the more that you do, the more you are able to do. Like your capacity increases over time. So if these things seem deep and like I'm not sure how to execute on these things, that's okay. Just start with this, and once you accomplish this, you'll be able to do even more. So to recap, become your own hero. Focus on developing the traits of a high performer, and you develop those traits by acting like you already have them. Remember that getting what you want is a side effect of becoming the type of person it takes to get it. So how do we take all these like big time ideas and turn it into something like for real? Here it is. We turn desire into results by setting goals, creating a plan that gets us the result that we want, visualizing how we execute our plan, and using self-talk to keep ourselves in the game. Right? If we set killer goals, we make plans that work no matter what. If we visualize our success, self having success, visualizing failures, we can defend against Murphy's Law. We use self-talk to make ourselves feel great when we win and keep us in the game when we lose. You're going to be really tough to beat. So I just want to give you an easy example here. Here's how I did all of this to run a marathon every day for a week and a 50-mile ultra marathon and 10 hours on a treadmill after 2 months of training. So here's how I broke it down. I wanted to run a 50-mile ultra in 2 months. So I knew I needed to start covering 80 miles a week. That meant I needed to start doing 40,000 steps a day. In order to make that easier, I wanted to lose 10 pounds. And if I deadlifted 405 and got my body weight down, I'll become faster and everything else will be easier as a side effect. To train this much, I needed to get up earlier. So I needed to practice setting a trigger action plan for getting up at 4 a.m. I needed to practice setting a trigger action practice. When I felt pain, that was the reason I was going to push harder. So now I would running and I would hurt. I would use that as an opportunity to practice. And then my face might be blocking out this bottom one. It is for me, but I was at a 25-minute walk with a focus timer. I see how far can I walk in 25 minutes, or how many steps can I get in 25 minutes, or how long does it actually take for me to walk 2 miles? Let's just set a timer and go. And by doing that, I was able to accomplish my goal. So hitting your goals really isn't that complex and complicated. Make a plan that's custom tailored for you. This is the final thing I want to talk about, but that's to be willing to invest in yourself, because remember, you are your own greatest asset to being able to hit your goals. And like no course, book, seminar, or speaker can ever hit your goals for you. So if you want to do this, you have to do it for you. You got to become the guy who can hit the goals. And this is just the spark. Now it's up to you to turn it into a wildfire. So if you want to build a plan together and you're willing to invest in yourself time, attention, energy, effort, and money, hit the link down below and we'll get started. If you have any questions at all, just message me on Instagram or email me. I'd love to answer them because I want to be the guy for you that just I didn't know existed when I was struggling. And that's the whole reason I make these videos, is just to empower people in ways that I wish I was empowered. So this kind of wraps up my video. Hopefully I'll see you soon. And yeah, let's get after it.